All right. So Windsor Super Qualifier was recently, and we decided we were going to film the final match. A shame that neither of us could. Well, Amber wouldn't have been in it. You were judging, but it's a shame I couldn't make it. I couldn't even get to the top 8. So, that said, we have 2 players in the top here, not even remotely strangers to the top 2. We have Patrick Yapjoco back from, we'll call it isolation or hiding. He has slept for long enough, and he has come out to dine on the wills of players. He brought with him a Kyle Rayner with a wall, a Brother Voodoo, and a Despotellus. His opponent, Tim Bold, he's playing a Banshee, Loki, Blind Al, and a Brother Voodoo. So as we enter the match, they're starting to set up the figures. The map they're playing on is the Thunderbolt sub. Now, before we get started, it's worth noting the Thunderbolt sub map is of course ignoring the orange rules because this is the rule set presented by the ROC. As a result, the orange on the outsides of the submarine isn't going to start flowing water in. It's actually a nice hiding spot for some teams to use. But before we get too into it, let's start the game and see where this goes. So now we have, of course, Patrick. Probably playing the game about 3. Oh, no, we're up to 4 times now in his head, as Patrick is ought to do. So he's placed his figures off to the left with, helping to avoid any sort of alpha strike. I don't see much of that potential in Tim's team per se, but of course, you'll never know what happens. Now, those of you paying really close attention, there's these little black cups on the table. This is special to the ROC. It's one of those things where you can't really. It's taking away any kind of accusation on the way people are playing. The black cups are dice cups where you kind of get a blind roll out of it. There has been some shady practices, such as spinning dice, that have been enacted by some people who are not quite 100% honest. And they look nice. So there is that. I'm glad I have Amber here to keep talking while I drink water.
Because there's been multiple pauses and Jason just rambling on for me to actually interject, and there's not much going on in the game at the moment, as Tim has brought out his objects and now placed them. The game has yet to actually be started.
Amber, raging with sarcasm right now, has decided that she's going to be a bitch the whole video, so... No, I love you, honey. They shake hands, and I believe we're off. So, of course, Patrick is doing what Patrick does. He's planning out his team turns meticulously, starting by breaking a wall with perplexed up damage from the Brother Voodoo. And Kyle will take his team with him. Now, one of the things that we'll try to communicate as best we can is they are doing things when they kind of grab figures. It's a little bit of a pain in the butt to grab all the figures and not accurately count. So he'll accurately count out his action, then put everything kind of back together. He'll take the wall off to move the character, and yeah. So, of course, Patrick's got to count out the nice safe distance. This is one of those things I think I've got to start doing a little bit better with my own game, is counting out where my opponent's going to be in relation to myself, or just counting out the squares between me and my opponent. And, of course, because Kyle Rayner is a normal-sized character who flies, he's able to carry. So he's carrying the Brother Voodoo and the Despotellus, because Despotellus is tiny and doesn't count towards one of your characters being carried. So very carefully. Now you'll see this is one of those things about the higher level of play, is characters of the higher level, or players at the higher level, will pay very close attention to every individual square that they place the characters that they've been carried. So he'll place his free wall. And he's explaining to Tim there about the rules on the map not being there. So it's not actually water terrain. It is, in fact, clear terrain. So we, of course, get ready to move into Tim's turn as he marks his action. So Tim's now got to react. So...
What did Brother Voodoo do to get the action token on
He broke the wall.
Okay.
Kyle Rayner has perplex, so he perplexed up Brother Voodoo's damage. Broke the wall, so Brother Voodoo had an action token, and then Kyle Rayner carried him. It's actually a pretty good move to pull off if you really think about it. gives him that action token so that he can react and have some start of the turn effects. Because one of the things a lot of really good players will do, especially with a character like Death Patelis or anybody with any kind of poison, is the first thing they'll do in the turn, because of mind control from Brother Voodoo is a free action, they'll mind control somebody right into the poisoner. And as well, Brother Voodoo poisons himself. So that could be 2 free damage just off of mind control right there.
And here we're seeing Tim just put an action token down on Maximus and brought an Alpha Primitive from his sideline onto the board.
They so dumb. Now, one of the things that's great about Tim's team is it's very aggressive once you get those Alpha Primitives moving. You can never forget, the Alpha Primitives do 3 damage, have 10 attack, they have super strength, so they're only 30 points, they can't use Ultra Heavies. But when they're within 4 squares of a character with a human keyword, they get to move for 4 squares for free, which is absolutely massive if you think about how much extra movement 4 squares can be. That's almost a full charge range in some characters' cases. One of the things, of course, to note is Patrick is using his wonderful Majestics poker chip tokens, and Tim has these very, very awesome-looking mushroom tokens, very similar to Mario. So Patrick passes his turn after popping up a free barrier. Kind of a meticulous start to the game. Patrick does give up a numbers advantage in this game. So it's actually hard to want to push. Like, a lot of players will just really want to push that Kyle Rayner as hard as they can and do as much damage as they possibly can. Where if you play it a little smarter when you lose the numbers game. Excuse me. So, Amber has to learn the art of vamping, so maintaining the conversation. So, one of the things that Tim's got to do is he's got to get into the aisle with Patrick. So, what Patrick has done is he's forced some of the limited actions that Tim's going to have with his sizable team to a certain number of things. He's got to either break through the walls or he's got to find a way to chase him down and take the long way around. So he's kind of created a Spartan situation, we'll call it. Where was it with the Battle of Thermopylae?
Yeah.
Of course, his 3 characters are going to be worth their points as well. I mean, 300 points versus 300 points. You can't argue with that, right? Oh. But shortly, I'm pretty sure within a couple turns, Tim is going to actually have 360 points on the board once the second Alpha Primitive's out. So Patrick very carefully places his barriers. Always, one of those things to always remember, kids, is if you have a free action, use a free action. So Tim passed his turn, and Patrick is now actually making his next turn, using the free barrier to kind of slowly defend his way up. Well, one of the things about the Thunderbolt sub is it's very strong for characters using the barrier, using the wall, or any other sort of barrier. Actually, I found that out the hard way in the first round, where my opponent was playing a Zombie Super Scroll as well as myself, but he had the GCPD bike and the Zombie Super Scroll with it to use his own barrier. Oh.
You find a lot with these later games now with like the final rounds. There's a lot of thinking and obviously thought that goes into this. And Tim's just gonna bring another Alpha Primitive onto the board. But there's a lot of times where the players themselves have to think of so many things that are happening on the board and so many things that can happen that a lot of times they're thinking just ahead rather than what's currently going on and being putting those together as to what they currently need to do. But if I do this, what's going to happen next? And you get a lot of turns like this where it's just kind of passing and clearing and waiting for someone to actually go on the aggressive and then react to it.
Yeah, high-level play is often about attack, counterattack, or if you are going to make an attack, limiting the amount of counterattacking your opponent can do. A Kyle Rayner is probably one of the peak types of characters you want to be able to counterattack with. For those of you unfamiliar, his third click unleashes the ability to duo attack, and before each attack that you make in the duo attack, you get to move or get to place Kyle Rayner within 6 or half of his movement. So I keep trying to say 6 whenever I talk about that because his movements with that are like 12 and 11 while he has that power. And when he's at the peak with that power, he's got a 5 damage, which using duo attack and any number of targets is a total of 9 damage. Because fortunately for some, unfortunately for others, duo attack does follow the rules of depleting damage. Now, one of the things that Tim Bolt does have going for him versus a Kyle Rayner is his Banshee. Banshee is one of those characters. He's got a trait where any character within 6 squares of Banshee can't use super senses, impervious, invincible, or invulnerable. If they use invincible, invulnerable, or impervious, they can only use toughness, which really doesn't matter to Banshee because he's got Psychic Blast. So what you see here is once again, Patrick has broken the wall and has kind of situated himself just on the offset of that wall. One of the things he could be doing is baiting an attack. He could be setting up a next turn action. So it's one of those things that's up in the air right now. What his plans are, what he plans to do with it. But where I was going with this is Banshee is really strong against Kyle because of the ability to take away his impervious and the additional damage that he'll do. So if he can get off 2 damage on Kyle Rayner, put him on that awesome click, and then have Banshee near there. It doesn't even have to be Banshee that does the attack. It could be any one of his characters, but he could pop him off of what's commonly referred to as the God click, very simply. Now, Amber, with Tim's team, what would you do in this situation? I mean, Kyle, he's broken the wall with Kyle. You've got a number of options, one of which is, of course, Maximus having telekinesis.
Especially with Maximus having telekinesis, I think one of the big things would be bringing that Banshee forward, making an attack, not necessarily on the Kyle right away, although that seems to be the only one you could see without the direct diagonal there on Brother Voodoo. I'm not quite sure where that wall is situated.
It looks like Kyle Rayner is sitting would be on the hindering terrain of the destroyed wall from his side.
Okay, so yeah, you wouldn't be able to get to Brother Voodoo because of where the wall is and where Kyle is. Kyle presents himself as the only option. Although, with the barrier in the way, you'd have to set up some ways to either break down those walls or have someone like, I believe Loki has phasing on his top click. Having Loki come in there, and Loki being a transporter also has the ability to carry somebody in. So that could possibly open you up, but then there's not much you can do as with the strike potential there. You'd have to basically clear and leave yourself vulnerable to an attack from either Kyle or Brother Voodoo in that situation. With Brother Voodoo being clear, moving him forward gives him an action token, and he's going to get that free action mind control.
Yeah. So, as well, it might be almost beneficial to TK one of the alpha primitives up. Have the Banshee within the area, because one of the things about Banshee's trait is that he doesn't have to see the characters within 6. He actually just has to be within 6 squares. So what he could do is get his Banshee in a position on the other side of the wall there, protected from the Kyle Rayner and the Brother Voodoo, in order to activate his trait, and then have one of the alpha primitives come in and do as much damage as you possibly can. With, the kind of damage swing we're talking about, it's a lot of potential output. I mean, you could deal 5 damage with a 30-point character, which is amazing, to say the least. But of course, allowing your alpha primitive to get mind controlled in retaliation could also turn to be a problem if he doesn't line it up properly. But this is Tim Bolt. He's going to line it up properly. So what he's done is he's taken his free action movement with the alpha primitive, and then he's going to attack the wall. Now on the far end of the soupy stuff over there, the clear water terrain.
Soupy stuff?
I'm going to call it the soupy stuff now.
Alright.
I think it's a pretty clever name. What do you think?
I like it. I like it.
Alright. So he's destroyed the wall with the Alpha Primitive. This is opened up another avenue in which to get to the Kyle Rayner. Of course, lining up the character, blocking the hindering terrain to get in there. Excuse me. And what was great about what was going on in the whole tournament is in the background there you see a couple guys playing Zombie Dice, a game myself and Amber have had a chance to play, which is actually quite fun. So you see here he's taken the Loki and moved up with an Alpha Primitive. Not something myself or Amber would really be expecting or what we really call this thing. But again, we're not those guys who make it up to these games. So this is what kind of sets us apart. We'll say things that we would do and they end up being like very terrible decisions in in reality. Heck, I made a terrible decision and got my own zombie Super Skrull killed in this tournament. So twice even. My zombie Super Skrull was really good at killing himself at this particular tournament.
Now he's moved Maximus forward, and that I believe has put him in. No, I know, but okay. Has put him in line of sight to be able to mind control those Alpha Primitives as part of Maximus's special power there.
Well, I think it's the Alpha Primitive's special power to be mind controlled.
Oh, okay, I thought Maximus got a special thing on there as well.
I know he made them. He might actually be better at mind controlling them, or he might automatically. I don't know. I have to look at Maximus' card. I don't have it in front of me. And Dan decides he's finally going to show up to the game. Hey, Dan, how you doing? On the left there is Dan Upham, the organizer of this event. He did a fantastic job of getting everybody rallied up and coming. Helped us set up some Winamap events locally. He ended up running a fantastic tournament with lots of great prizing. The delay caused by nationals coming up at the same day as his tournament last year actually really helped him build a much better prize pool for this event. So he did a fantastic job with a lot of time, and I have to commend him on a great job running this. So this is where things okay. Now here's where things get really interesting. You see, Patrick is now stuck with he's kind of stuck in a sandwich position where on one side he could be attacked from Banshees and Alpha Primitives, and the other side he can be attacked by much of the same. So he's decided he's going to take his barrier a little tighter, not on the other side of the wall, but rather close in on the corridor where he's at to protect his Kyle and his Despotellus. Now, this does open up the Brother Voodoo to the potential of a close combat attack or even the Kyle Rayner, but a single close combat attack with the Kyle Rayner would put Tim in a lot of trouble. As that's what Kyle Rayner does, is puts you in trouble for damaging him. So Tim is really he's got to be very careful about the actions he makes this particular turn, because this is going to be where engagement pretty much occurs. There's no avoiding it. He's got to be the first to strike, or he's going to be giving up a lot of advantage. He could end up handing one of his characters to the Brother Voodoo to just feed to Kyle Rayner and Despotellus even. If you put it right next to the Kyle Rayner especially, or especially to the Despotellus, because if he brings something next to Despotellus and kills it, Despotellus is now in the middle of his team and making everybody sick, as I like to call it. Wow. Now, this is one of those things about the 50-minute time limit with the greater players. 50 minutes is more than enough, and even though you'll see them take particularly long terms to think about their teams, it's all going to just kind of happen, and they kind of know where the game is going to go from here one way or another. There will be some reactions here and there, but ultimately, both teams are very, very powerful and very capable of absolutely demolishing a team with the right actions. And one of the things that a lot of people often miss with regards to the Kyle Rayner from the get-go is that he does come with energy explosions. So these tightly knit, tightly packed group teams that have been starting to show up in the format will be very susceptible to that very high attack and that very strong energy explosion, because he does have 2 targets with it. And this looks like it's going to be it. So we see the Alpha Primitive, I believe, is going to be taking his free 4-square movement. No,
this Loki moving forward.
This is Loki going forward. Now, Look at the positioning here. We have Banshee now. I got to count it out, and you're not going to see me count it out on the screen. Banshee is within 6 squares of Brother Voodoo. So that's done is that has taken away Brother Voodoo's.
We are finally getting dice rolled. We are actually just about 20 minutes into the game, and that was definitely a hit. It looked like to be
3 damage. It's gonna be 3 damage on the Brother Voodoo. He didn't pick up an object on the way, but because of the positioning on the Banshee, and one of the things that a lot of people are gonna miss. Did you see he just moved the Loki right in front of there? What that's going to cause is that's going to cause a line of fire blockage on Brother Voodoo's probability control. So it gives the alpha primitives one big chance at attacking Brother Voodoo without being probed and especially without being super sensed away. So very good move by Tim. Planned that out very well, and it couldn't have gone any better. So, go. Nope, nothing. Oh, it sounded like you're going to say something.
Nope.
No.
Well, he did the free movement on the other alpha primitive to actually bring him into the tunnel facing Kyle Rayner.
From the soupy clear.
It is soupy soups.
The soupy soup. It's whale soup, man. Look at it. There's whales and sharks up in that.
A scary place to be.
Unless you're at the ROC. All right. So now it's reaction time from Patrick. So how is he going to play this out? His options include retaliating on the alpha primitive and scoring some more points. Because one of the things he's got to be very careful of, he's got his entire team of 300 points adjacent to 60 points of the team, of Tim's team. And that's 60 points, 30 of which didn't start on the map. So is he going to take the 190 coming from the Kyle Rayner and devote it to an attack on a 30? And, of course, I think this is where he's going to attack with the Brother Voodoo.
Oh, that was an 8.
Was that enough to hit? That was... I think Brother Voodoo's stats are actually currently terrible.
Well, he has taken 3 damage, so he's definitely not top dial anymore.
Yeah. I actually should have brought these characters down in order to check dials.
Yeah.
Something to do for the next time we do an episode like this. So now he's going to try to mind control. I believe he's attempting to mind... Yes, okay, so this is a clever move. He mind controlled the alpha primitive, who gets +1 attack, and of course will smoke the Loki. So what he's done now is he made an attack attempt with the Brother Voodoo. That failed. But instead of being in the down and out, Brother Voodoo is one of those characters who's great. He can take a mind control action. He mind controlled the alpha primitive, who gets -2 to his defense when you mind control him, and used it to kill the Loki. And then Kyle Rayner is going to turn around and shoot the other one. So now he's kind of taken himself out of the initial hot water. Now, he's still, the trade-off is 3 damage to the Brother Voodoo, who's a 79-point character. No damage yet on the Kyle Rayner. And Tim is now down a Loki and an alpha primitive. So, in an attempt to do some forward damage, Patrick has actually managed to turn this around in his favor. Big commendation on that one.
And once again, he's got that free barrier going up to protect Kyle from the second alpha primitive that's coming around the other side.
Yeah. I think he's going to get the free movement from the other... from Maximus, from where he is. 1, 2, 3, 4. So I believe he actually has a free movement. He could take the long way around and charge, but that would actually leave him susceptible to Despotellus. One of those things about Despotellus is you don't necessarily have to start adjacent to him for him to start following you.
Is anytime you become adjacent to him, he has that option to follow you once you've done your movement.
Yeah. Or finish your action anyway.
Yeah.
So Tim now still on the offensive, which is not a bad place to be in the game of Heroclix. Being the aggressor is kind of an important thing, because when you're doing the forward movement, your opponent being on tilt, you do get quite a few advantages. For when your opponent is forced to react, and being forced to react requires the act of rolling and possibly missing and not doing so well. So very carefully thinking out his turn. One of those things about a game like this is really hard to keep the conversation going when they're just thinking.
Yeah.
So Amber, your situation is this. What do you do?
I personally would want to get that Banshee in there, but it actually may be more beneficial to move the Brother Voodoo forward and try and mind control Kyle to have Kyle take out the other Brother Voodoo and have him stop being an issue.
Also an option. And that's actually what I would have said: is take the Brother Voodoo up and start Brother Voodooing his Kyle. Now the problem is that he's in a situation where he doesn't get the advantage on Kyle. The barrier is placed in the corridor, so he's going to be getting a ranged defense boost. But options still include using the blind owl to up his attack.
There's a blind owl back there.
Yeah, there is a blind owl back there. I think she's actually hiding behind Brother Voodoo, to be brutally honest. And of course, Brother Voodoo, with his 10 movement and phasing, can probably easily get up to the area he's in. And here, one of those things that I'm thinking about is he going to watch this and then say, "Oh, I should have done that," or is he going to watch it and go, "What are you, crazy?" Okay, so what he's done now is he's actually broken down the barrier with the alpha primitive. And now he's actually gonna sidestep up with Maximus. I think Maximus is slowly gonna sidestep up. He's gonna TK Banshee back to the starting area. Tim, of course, has just said it's all part of my mad plan. You're not gonna hear him say that, but Tim is one of a few high level players. What he likes to do is when he's really having some fun and is in a very friendly mood, he will start reading his powers off as they're written on the cards. You know, which must be very confusing when he's using Bizarro. So I'm going to use sidestep. That's charge, right? Yes, it's charge. Okay, so sidestep is charge. Hypersonic is what's that again?
All the things.
Mm-hmm. Oh.
So what would be the advantage here of moving the Banshee back, just to be able to get him down into that corridor?
Yes.
Or
You TK'd him backwards in order to get him to get that corridor available to him, because he was TK'd forward, TK'd back. So Banshee's really just been there right now to negate the defense powers that have been exceptionally obnoxious.
So we have Banshee targeting Kyle right now, looks like.
Oh, a 4 comes up. That's going to be a miss. Unfortunate, because
that was a push on the Banshee, so
yeah.
Now he's a little bit weaker.
Yeah. Now, one of the advantages he does have, though, is he's got the Banshee in that range. If he hadn't have taken 3 actions, he might have been able to get the Brother Voodoo out there, ignore that Super Senses on the Kyle, and get a line of fire. But because when you have a lot of characters on your team, the number of actions you get is actually very, very low in comparison to the numbers that you have, and it gets really difficult to. So you see here, Patrick plays a very careful game this turn. He's got a lot of possibilities in regards to getting the alpha primitive possibly out of his face, but instead of taking the risk, he just plays very safe, barriers up, and passes the turn on to Tim. So what he's going to do now is he's going to force Tim, if he wants to get that alpha, or he wants to get that shot from Banshee, or from Brother Voodoo, he's got to use another action on the alpha primitive in order to break that wall. So, yep, so he perplexes up the attack, moves Brother Voodoo right next to Kyle Rayner so he doesn't get that range advantage. And now, Kyle Rayner does have super senses right now, but that doesn't matter because Banshee's there.
And now with Brother Voodoo having an action token, he can do his free mind control, and he's gonna prob it.
Because that was a 3 if you didn't quite catch that.
And we're looking at a 7. So
yep. A 7 plus the perplexed up attack plus 1 for using mind control. That's more than enough to hit Kyle at close range. So now it's a matter of, does he try to kill Despotellus or Brother Voodoo? He kills Brother Voodoo. So that leaves one Brother Voodoo off the board. It puts Tim 19 points ahead. So Effectively, yes, Kyle Rayner is on tilt. When I, of course, refer to on tilt, you are the one forced to react. Okay, so here's one of those clever things: is Brother Voodoo, when he's adjacent to an opposing character, can use Smoke Cloud, and Smoke Cloud, when used by when you're occupying smoke and you don't actually use Smoke Cloud, one of the new effects that Smoke Cloud has added is a -1 to your attack, which a lot of players actually tend to miss. And is a very, very effective use. Now, you have to. The two ways to not be affected by it are ignore hindering for line of fire, and to also have Smoke Cloud yourself. So instead, he's just going to go whole hog and attack with Kyle Rayner. And that will smoke the alpha primitive, which is what he was attacking. So now, as far as points are concerned, Patrick has retaken the lead in the game. And only exposed his butt to Brother Voodoo. So now is the question: he uses poison, which will do some damage to Kyle Rayner. Now Tim's really got to think it out in this one, because when he does another damage to Kyle Rayner, he's in a bad place. Kyle Rayner can potentially become a massive behemoth of an enemy. But his Brother Voodoo is still at full. And Banshee has taken one from a push. Maximus is still at full. Blind Owl is, well, it is Blind Owl. She's there. So it looks like he's rolling Mind Control of Brother Voodoo again. And he's propping it.
And it looks like overall that was a miss
Yeah.
on whatever it was that he was doing there.
Yeah. So he's going to continue with the free smoke clouds as he enters the problem zone, as it were. So now, one of the hard things about dealing with the Kyle Rayner is you have to do damage to him. It's unfortunate. Because in order to have him die, he's got to take damage. So he's checking for that power, trying to see where the stop click is. He's got to measure it out very carefully right now, because what's going to happen is when Brother Voodoo poisons Kyle Rayner with his, and Kyle Rayner's only got super senses right now. He's looking at the Mega Click, 19 defense with Impervious and Quintessence, and the duo attack and able to move with it. So the poison happens, and now Kyle Rayner is peaked. We're looking at an intense game here. And hands back as well. Stop dropping your stuff, Patrick.
We have Maximus moving forward.
Yep, nice little cute sidestep. You know, somebody pointed out to me about sidestep is nobody ever just kind of puts the character there. Everybody counts each individual thing like you're playing Monopoly and you're 6 years old. Okay, so here we go. He TKs. Now this is a big attempt. What he's about to try to do, I think, yeah, okay. What he's lining up is Banshee's double power action pulse wave. So he's letting Tim take back a couple little movements so that he can get his Brother Voodoo out of the danger zone. Of course, it's always nice to be a polite player, guys, because sometimes people just kind of miss little things. So he TKs out the Banshee. Now, Banshee's trait is still firing off, even though Kyle Rayner's defense power can't be ignored. Banshee's trait says can't use. So, he's going to double power action Pulse Wave, which will break the walls from the barrier down. And he's looking at a possible, I believe it's 2 or 3 damage on the Kyle. You got to get Kyle off of that stop click. Once you get Kyle off your stop click, off of his stop click, your life's a lot easier. But until then, he's a nightmare. And that looks...
That was a 4.
Yeah. Now the Pulse Wave is, of course, short in range, so he does have the advantage of prob. Unfortunately, that gamble didn't pay off. He pushes the Banshee, who's now in an unfortunate zone. And this is going to be where the game kind of tumbles. And, of course, Tim is saying it was a 50-50 chance. He either got it or he didn't.
Yeah. One of those things where I always find when I had those situations where I get into a position and I'm like, this is going to make or break the game for me. And it's a good chance it could go either way. But if I hit it, I'm in a really good spot. If I miss it, it's almost game over.
So, of course, now, one of the things a lot of people will notice is that Kyle Rayner being on his awesome Clix, he is not going to be carrying around Despotellis. Because both movements are a placement, and you can't carry on a placement, you can only carry on a move action. So, we're going to see how this goes for him. I'm sure he led in with outwitting whatever defense power the Banshee has. And then with a 12 attack, it pretty much annihilates Banshee with 5 damage, because I think Banshee's already taken 2, both of which were pushing damage.
Yeah. And then he moves on to his second attack here.
And this is going to be an attack at 4 damage. And then he's deciding whether it's going to be Maximus or Brother Voodoo who's going to be taking it. Attacks.
And it's on Maximus there.
So that's 4 damage now on Maximus. And then comes the free barrier.
Now, what I find interesting here is that he doesn't do it as 2 straight across to try to, like, just block off that area, but he actually completely closes in Kyle by putting 1 in front of him and 1 next to him with the barrier.
Right. Yep. And that's actually a very clever move. You cut off any kind of swing moves that your opponent might be able to make. And I think that Brother Voodoo is still on his first click. He's got a long movement with phasing. So... Now, he's not 100% Tim's not 100% out of options here. He could still potentially work some magic with Kyle and Despotellis, but Patrick has got to be very careful about what he does with regards to using Kyle or Despotellis.
So that is a successful mind control.
To get Kyle the heck out of there. And then, now here's a nice trick. He moves the Kyle to Tim's starting zone, and Tim will then... use Blind Owl, pop him out of the starting area, and deal 1 penetrating damage. So now he's off of the stop click, which is a massive move, and is one of those things that could possibly swing the game in his favor. Now Kyle is, of course, showing invulnerability at this point, and Tim's characters are not 100% ready for invulnerable still, because Maximus isn't exactly a big damage dealer, and Brother Voodoo is more of a mind controller, if anything. And Kyle Rayner does still have the duo attack special power. So, we'll see what happens with regards to this. I mean, it's no surprise to me what's going to happen from here, but...
Now, on this, when he Blind Owl kicked Kyle out of the starting area, he ended up putting him pretty much adjacent to Maximus, or is there a wall?
There's a wall in between them.
Okay.
No. But, of course... a couple movements here and there, and then he's going to try to smoke Blind Owl. I hope he didn't get, like, one of those things you get a little careless and confident in your game. I'm hoping, I can't really see the picture from here, but I don't believe he's in the starting area, because goodness knows you don't want to critically miss that Blind Owl and have Blind Owl do another free damage to you. That's So now it's down to Tim's Brother Voodoo versus Kyle and Despotellis. Tim clears with the Brother Voodoo. And at this point, Tim is just kind of going through the motions, trying to get some extra points, possibly kill the Despotellis, I think, is what he's going to try to do. And actually, the game broke into a little bit of comedy at this point, because You know what? I'm not going to give it away. Let's wait for it to happen. So we have the first movement from Kyle, making an attack on Brother Voodoo. And we have it, I believe it's high enough to hit Brother Voodoo.
And he's making a prop, looks like. Or is
no, he missed.
Nope,
That was a miss.
He's
that was a
going
miss.
on to his second attack.
Yeah.
And a miss again.
Yeah. And, of course, engulfing his Kyle back in the corner, protecting himself from any possible retaliation from Brother Voodoo. Outwitting, of course, something from Brother Voodoo, I'm sure. And Tim has just said he's out of tricks. Of course, for those of you not paying attention, we do have the option of the voice, and Patrick has turned and said, "You're second no matter what."
And Tim's sitting at a spot where he's weighing his options and pretty much saying that there's not too much he can do at this point, but he has decided to play out the game, as you pretty much don't always want to just concede. As in a tournament setting, if you do concede, you hand over the rest of your points to your opponent.
And, you know, people love Heroclix.
That too.
Yeah. Now, one of the things is good. He just tried to mind control the Despotellis. Not much you can do with that. But
if you have a free action, use your free action.
Yeah. It's like I said, if you can do it, do it. There's never not a reason to have or to use your leadership. Never not a reason to use free mind control. And, of course, Kyle playing the safe game because Patrick doesn't want to make too much of any big mistakes in order that could cost him the game.
Okay, so he's going to try and mind control Despotellis again because...
And he's successful with a 10. And then he clears. Because when you mind control Despotellis, you can't do anything. And, of course, Patrick is not going to rush anything. He's just going to clear out. And then pass on the Tim to turn to Tim Cook. Tim Bold. Tim Cook. Sorry, I was listening to video game news earlier today. All right, he's shooting at Despotellis now. Misses. I think he rolled an 8 on that one.
Yeah.
Attack again. Attempt again with the prop. Nope. He's got a free action. And now he's going to try to mind control. And he's successful with his mind control.
Yeah!
This was what I was saying where the game broke into comedy. He couldn't hit aggressively against the Despotellis. But man, could he ever make a mind control against them.
And Kyle's just having problems hitting that Brother Voodoo there.
Yeah. Of course, when Brother Voodoo has an outwit, it's super senses. It becomes a lot easier. He's mind controlling Despotellis. Hey, he didn't get it this time.
Alright.
And now he's gonna use that indomitable Kyle Rayner to see if he can't finish it off. And there it is. Fantastic game by two fantastic players. Thank you very much for joining us, folks. It's been a pleasure talking about this game. It was a pleasure being at that tournament. And we hope to see you guys again further this week. This is Jason.
And Amber.
Signing off. Married with Clix is proudly sponsored by Majestic's Comics, Collectibles, and Games, located in Costa Mesa, California, near the Orange County Fairgrounds. If you don't happen to live in the Costa Mesa, California area, though, you can check out their website, linked down below, majesticccg.com, where you can check out all kinds of stuff to shop for, their regular tournament listings if you happen to live in the area, or if you need to shop, they've always got some Heroclix stuff if you check out both their eBay store, which is linkable in their website, as well as their online store, which I believe should be having product added soon enough. Also, they keep regular articles written by some of the great minds in Heroclix, including Adam Friedman, the 2014 Heroclix Nationals champ, and of course, the owner of the store, Patrick Yapjoco, the 2014 Heroclix Worlds champ, 2014 Team Worlds Champion, as well as the 2014 Dragon Con ROC Champion. Wow, that's quite a year he had last year. I think he's going to repeat it in 2015, right? So, don't forget to check the link down below, or check out the store if you live in the area.